Good morning and welcome to Visionary Aging. I'm Mary Winters, a gerontologist, the owner of About Senior Solutions. And we put this program together for you because we want you to have resources to plan your best life ever. And so we talk about everything from middle-age aging to older age aging and how we can get you there successfully with the great topics that we discuss and the great people that we have on as guests. Today, we have Melinda on with us, and we have our segment host, Stephen McCullough. We're going to talk about stress. Stress is a killer, literally. So we want to see what we can do to manage that a little bit better. And we'll talk about some tips and some things that you are welcome to share with us on the program too, if you want to jump on and ask a few questions. So I'm going to go ahead and, I want to share my new sign. I'm so excited. We have a Visionary Aging sign that this wonderful couple put together for us. And I'm excited. We have it hanging back here. And in any event, we'll go ahead and we'll get going. I'm going to go ahead and start with a little bit of a commercial because we have a really neat program that we're rolling out called Shape Up. And won't necessarily talk about it in the commercial, but we'll talk about it a little bit afterwards. So here we go. So the thing that's so cool about this program is that we look at what everybody, what the 7 measures are. I created 7 measures from a lot of research on what supports our longevity, not just living longer, but also living happier, living better. So in fact, I even have this kind of theory, just we can go from good to better to best. And we can do that by making very small changes sometimes. And I've talked about this a little bit in the past with my kids have come home over the years, like my son when he had braces and he said, "Hey, Mom, the dentist said I can't have sodas anymore because of my braces." And I went, "Okay, well, maybe none of us should be drinking sodas anymore." We've all had that chemistry or that science fair project that you've seen where the pennies go into the Coca-Cola and they dissolve essentially, or your teeth dissolve. And so that, maybe we could get a little closer to health with not drinking sodas. And then another son came home one day and said, "I am doing bodybuilding and really trying to focus on my well-being. And so I'm going to be cooking and adding more protein to things and eliminating pastas." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's great. Nice lesson for me. So let's do more of that at the house." So just over time, we've evolved. I've set myself up into more pescatarian kinds of diets. I do not eat dairy. I cut out coffee, not caffeine 100% necessarily, but just trying to go from good to better to best. So in any event, we will discuss, I'll bring this up quickly, and then we'll bring in Steve McCullough. But I wanted to, let's see if I can find our Shape Up summary. So there's 7 items for Shape Up are spirituality, your a healthy life balance. That's a pretty broad category, but it's looking at your planning. How are you balancing your life? How are you reducing your stress because you're putting some planning and organization together, taking care of your health by regular appointments? Who are you hanging out with? What's your attitude? Who are your influencers? Who do you need to spend more time around to increase the way you feel in a positive way? Who do you need to eliminate possibly? Physical activity, anything. What can we do to slightly increase what we're doing? I made a commitment to take a micro step of putting my workout clothes out in the morning so I can at least look at them and go, "Hey, they're here. Maybe I'll actually get dressed." Also, we have eating habits. Melinda is our expert in this area as a mastered nutritionist. She gives us so much great advice in how we can maybe alter some things very slightly to improve our health. and maybe sleep. All of those things are so important. United family, it doesn't necessarily mean the family you're born into, but the people you are close to, the people you are connected to, kind of going back to this attitude and influencers, but the people that you spend time with. Who are your top 10? Who are your top 5? Who's your top 3? And then purpose. If we're not figuring out how to give back out of the talents that we have, we're not utilizing all of our strengths. We're not potentially, we're damaging ourselves by not sharing those strengths with others and producing some support and really uplifting ourselves in providing that support to other people too. So let me go ahead, and we're going to have Steve on. And we're going to talk a little bit about, well, you'll see. Hold on. Wow, we have Steve on. Steve, how are you doing this morning?
Good morning.
It's been a few weeks,
I'm
huh?
good. How are you? It's been a little bit. Yes.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. We're back. So tell me, what kind of a caregiver question did you get today?
So the caregiver question today comes from a lady. What's that?
Trying to find it still.
Sorry.
And please send your question.
It comes from a lady.
Love it. It helps Steve in asking something, and it kind of even guides our programming sometimes. So please feel free to reach out to info@aboutsenior-solutions.com and send Steve some questions for the future.
Yeah, definitely. So our question today comes from a lady. Her elderly parent is home, but she's worried that he shouldn't be home. And she thinks he should go into a assisted housing or some facility where he's around people. Her sibling thinks that dad should be at home and is pushing for that. So she wants to know, how do they decide, like what would be good like talking points to decide what is best for dad staying at home versus being around, in an assisted housing or someplace where he's around people 24/7, both for a safety aspect, but also just for the interaction, the social interaction aspect.
Okay, no, that's a great question. And basically, when I look at those scenarios, biggest thing for safety. So if he shouldn't be left alone because of, and she didn't detail maybe some of what's happening. And so we're going to assume that maybe there's some memory loss or some physical limitations where the person really shouldn't be left alone because it's unsafe. So we want to create safety around the individual, and we want to know what they want. Do they want to stay home? Would they like to move into a community setting? And based on that, we can move in a direction to help support with resources. But just as important, what are their financial resources? What do they have available to them, and for how long? So assessing all 3 of those things, what the person wants, what's going to keep them safe, and what they can afford, is how we design a care plan or the outcomes for a family. So sometimes just knowing that it's probably going to be twice as much to live at home with a caregiver based on the cost of care versus moving into a community. Sometimes people make their mind up that way. Most people want to stay at home. So maybe they'll say the first year we can stretch that out, and then we're going to need to look at some placement. Obviously, somebody's age plays into a lot of how we have to kind of spread that wealth out potentially for them. So looking at those factors, and then the other thing that's kind of interesting too is kind of a phenomenon that we think about as people age in communities, that they're not alone and so they're better off. Mm-hmm. There's a lack of connectedness oftentimes in communities. They may have a little relationship with some of the staff there. They may connect earlier, or with a couple of residents there. And I think the key to some of the CCRCs are those communities that are typically very large communities. You buy into them, you oftentimes move into them. People are still working when they move into them. They have the ability to move into independent settings, and then they have supported services and memory care, and often many of them still have skilled nursing facilities attached to them too. I think because they move into those communities more able and capable of connecting with others and finding their commonalities, and oftentimes they may have a faith base to some of these CCRCs, so they already have a common faith that they may join in, but because they move in younger and are able to make those connections, I think that we see happier, longer living individuals living in those settings. So that said, ask your communities that you're looking at when you are potentially looking to move into a community, how do you connect the residents in this building here? Because the programming that we do, we actually have people say, I've lived here for 3 years and I didn't even know that I had some common interests or connections with people here. So it's really important for that to happen. So I hope I didn't drone on too long about that, but
great response.
It really is really important to look at all three of those factors. The individual's wishes, the safety of the person, and how to that budget around building that safety around that person to decide how to do those things. And then, of course, we work with people to make sure that they have those successes into communities or at home if they want to stay at home. We have some risky scenarios sometimes that it does not lend itself to keep somebody at home. And as much as we try and we kind of work through issues, sometimes the safety kind of precludes people, regardless of how much money sometimes that they have, that we need more hands-on or just a different environment for them to be in versus too. So it just depends. So I hope that answers her question, and I hope you'll continue to send your questions to Steve at info@aboutsenior-solutions.com. So are you coming back on afterwards and telling us a little bit about this day in sports?
I have a good one today. I'm excited.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, sounds great. Well, Melinda and I are going to talk shortly about stress, but I'm going to talk about our little lady here who's 100. So we'll do that, and then we'll go back to Melinda. So hold on here. And let's see. Hold on your shirts here. I gotta find here. Nope, that's not it. That's it. Oh, here we go. All right. I hope if you have a resident turning 100 in your building that you will reach out to us and share that special event. We have Frances Crawley, who is just turned 100, and she was married to Mr. Whitaker, and she actually went to Greencastle High School. So any Greencastle High School fans, I think you should hoot and holler for her. She married Jim, and they owned and operated several restaurants throughout their career. She was known for her homemade pies at those restaurants. And I wonder what her favorite was, or the ones that the family loved the most. Oh, the family loved her fudge and divinity that she made at Christmas. My grandma used to make divinity. And her children are James, Max, Pam, John, Teresa, and Jerry. She has 12 grandchildren and several great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren. She loves to watch the Indian Pacers, the men's basketball, and Chicago Cubs, and she enjoys completing jigsaw puzzles and adult coloring books, and she also enjoys embroidery and gardening. She was an avid fisherman in her younger years. I just think that's fantastic. She has done so many wonderful things that have kept her really going. I know a lot of this is it can be our genes, but it's also environmental. And I would say that I'm sure a lot of this is attitude and all the balance that she put in her life with her gardening. She did not smoke or drink. And she didn't attend wild parties apparently either while she was growing up. She was a big help to her mother with cooking, which probably created this wonderful ability to build her restaurants and so forth. And she cleaned and took care of her family. That's what Frances did. So happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, and many, many more. So glad. We'll go ahead and we're going to go on to we are going to have Melinda on. We're going to talk a little bit about stress. So we'll do that. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Happy early Valentine's Day to everybody.
I know it's a big weekend over here. We have Mr. Steve's birthday on Sunday, and we have Valentine's Day, on Tuesday?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Yeah. That's a stress, right? Having to plan all those things. And
we don't really do anything. I mean, maybe, a show like express some additional appreciation, but every day is Valentine's Day, right?
It's true. It's very true. In fact, we've had everybody's back in balance. We're kind of getting back there, but we've had a little stressful situation in my family with my daughter's health. And last year it was my son. And I have to say, they've been so sweet. I have 2 sons and a daughter. They've been so sweet and supportive of each other. And I think it's been a huge reminder, even though it's scary and the outcomes could have gone either way, we're so fortunate and blessed to have them go the right way where they're safe and okay. But it's really grounded us in regards to what's important.
Yeah.
Who we spend time with and the stress that kind of goes along with those things. So share some tips with us about managing stress.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things is a client of mine, right after I earned my master's in nutrition, asked me what my biggest takeaway of the entire experience of earning a master's in nutrition was. And that was a really cool question to get because I'd never thought of it. And my answer was immediate. And the immediate answer was that stress kills you. Because the master's program was divided into all the different systems of the body, whether it's your skin or your cardiovascular system, all the different systems. And the factor that came in time and time again as being detrimental to one's health and, the impetus to kind of developing chronic conditions and illnesses for that system was stress. Mm-hmm. So it's something that I think in our, in the world today, people are paying a lot more attention to because we realize that it is one of the biggest factors that, that affects our health and ultimately our happiness. Yeah. So I think there are two types of stress. And I think it's important in dealing with our stress that we kind of can differentiate between the two types. One type being what's called self-chosen stress. Yeah. And then the other type is actual stressors that are unavoidable. And so obviously self-chosen stress is kind of where our mind starts to go. Or one of the valuable things my father taught me is he said, if it's not going to be a problem for you a year from now, then it's not a problem. And I think that that's always a really good example of what self-chosen stress is. So exactly. If you're circling or stressing about something, a lot of it is like created in our own minds. And that thing that you're obsessing about or thinking about, or that bill that you have to pay wouldn't be a problem in a year from now. It's a pretty good indication that it's self-chosen stress. And those types of stress, the best thing to do is let go of them immediately. Stop creating them in our lives.
Yeah, I think that's perfectionism. I think that's people pleasing. I think that's lack of boundaries sometimes. I think it's what we think we need to do, but we don't necessarily have to.
All the
And
shoulds. Yeah.
yep. And I think to that, I mean, there are organizations and different things that I've been part of, and some I've been very happy to want to support, and others you start feeling a little begrudging about spending the time, and especially when it affects maybe the personal time you're spending with loved ones. And so I think those are opportunities to clear your plate and say, I'm going to give it this period of time and I'm out, or I'm going to find my replacement, or I'm resigning today, giving a little notice here. But I think those are really important things to look at for sure. What can you get off your plate?
Yeah. And what can, relationships that are, bad for you, what can,
Sure.
are toxic, or, creating a lot of stress in your life. What can you do to change that relationship if you want to maintain that, relationship in your life? Or what can you do to potentially exit that, or, diminish it, or limit the amount of time you spend with that person?
No, it's true. It can be very frustrating. In fact, honestly, as we're talking about this, it's so connected with Shape Up. And I'm going to pull
Oh,
Shape
absolutely.
Up again, too, because I'm just thinking, even with our spirituality, how are you getting rid of your worry? How are you relieving yourself of stress that is in the environment and you can't change? So when we were all dealing with COVID, how do we work through that? Was there a practice of faith that you have, or was there meditation? How are you doing that? How are you balancing your sleep? Are you laughing? Are you having a good time? Are you taking care of the things that you shouldn't avoid, like making sure that you have routine checkups and putting your planning together? Before my daughter went into the surgery room last week, I had her sign an advanced healthcare directive. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my child, and I didn't do this right. She should have already had this done. And it made me feel a lot better. I probably freaked her out, but made me feel a lot better that it was there. And thankfully we didn't have to worry about anything. But that said, it's just about putting those planning pieces in place so you don't have to worry or stress out. And obviously you just mentioned attitude and influencers. Who are we hanging out with, and who do we have poor boundaries with? Who do we have to reel in our own boundaries with, our expectations? Yeah, all really great stuff. And even in regards to physical activity, would it help our stress by working out, doing something different? I'm so grateful I have the strength shop to go to and make sure that not only am I doing something for my body, I have such a great coach that it's a wonderful connection to see her.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It makes it fun. So, and then, are we putting things in our body and increasing our potential to crash or to stress ourselves out because we're not eating healthfully? Just little things to think about.
Well, food, our nutrition and our physical fitness can create more stress or can relieve stress. So I loved that you brought that up as an example, because with physical fitness, there's a way where you can, exercise. There's a way to exercise, strengthen, take care of our body with physical activity that releases stress and promotes wellness. And there's a way, I call it like Herculean exercise, where people become obsessive about it, or they over exercise, and that actually causes more stress in the body. If someone's getting up really early, not giving their body enough rest so that they can participate in like a very brutal workout, and they do that every day, not only does your body not get the rest and recovery that it needs from that workout, from those exercise sessions, but you're also creating so much more stress in your system. And then the same thing is true with food. There's ways of eating that are balanced, that promote wellness. And then there's ways of eating and there's certain foods for different people that create stress in the body, because our body reacts to the chemistry of that particular food in a way that it doesn't serve us, that creates illness, that creates stress, the stress response in the body. And what's quite interesting about stress in the body is that your body reacts to stress as if there's a threat to your life. So there's no difference when you have stress in the body. There's no difference to your physical body on whether or not there's actually a lion chasing you and your life is threatened, or you're, in a argument with someone that you, like, or there's, somebody
Finishing a
cut you off in
deadline,
traffic.
right? Yeah, or finishing a
It doesn't
deadline.
distinguish. Yeah.
Right, right.
And so
Interesting.
the response in the body is the same. And that's where it becomes really important to let go of the stress that we have, that we don't have to create or perpetuate and keep that going, because our body, it responds to it in the same way as real stress that's unavoidable.
Yeah, so I would assume if you're starting to see your hair fall out, or your stomach is bothering you, or you're not sleeping well at night, those are definitely signs that, what do I have to drill down here and really think about as far as how I'm stressing myself out? I think COVID created a lot of stressors for all of us, and ways that we had to pivot and renew what we were doing in regards to business or serving others. Restaurants obviously had such a hard time, especially in the beginning, but yeah, what's out there to make things better then?
Well, stress that we can't control, that happens like during that period of COVID, which was undeniably stressful for everybody, no matter who you were negatively impacted by, COVID coming in and the global pandemic. So that when we're dealing with stressors that we don't have control over, part of what your body prepares for is stress. So those stressors, they utilize your resources, basically your body's resources. So that's when it becomes really important to get quality sleep, way more important to eat a healthy, balanced diet, and more important to have time outside, just kind of moving your body on a walk where you can, connect with nature, because those things help to recharge our physical body. Well, it recharges us mentally and spiritually in a lot of ways too, but we need to keep kind of like our battery full, and we have to keep replenishing that battery, because that stress that we can't control, we see it over and over again. If we're working with someone and they get diagnosed with something, like they lose muscle rapidly, no matter what type of illness it is. When someone goes in for a procedure, whether it's elective or something that's, extremely necessary, it's going to take resources from the body. They come back weaker when they resume their training with us. It eats at your body's resources, and that's what the strength of your body is there for. So when we go into periods of time or situations where we can't control the stress that's coming at us, what we can control is how we recharge our battery and how we keep doing that. And there's lots of different ways to do that with the shape up, with your
Back on here.
Yeah, with your spirituality, with your chosen family, with the physical activity you choose, and the rest and recovery that's necessary for that physical activity.
Very
with
true.
the balanced eating that is going to support your body during times of high stress. And then the people that you surround yourself with, are they supportive, or are they adding more stress to an already, an already stressful situation?
Yeah, I mean, even with the work that we do, it can be so challenging. And we've talked about different clients that we've decided not to accept, because fortunately we're in a position to be able to do that. And I don't need to tax my team. I don't need to overstress ourselves on things that just aren't going to benefit anyone in the end.
Yeah.
So it's making choices, and having the attitudes and influences that we want to have within our environment. But yeah, I love what you had to say, and I think you're absolutely right. And it is interesting what we do to ourselves, versus what the environment kind of hands out to us, and how everybody handles those things very differently. But again,
Yeah.
throw a couple out there, a couple great resources again, like you just mentioned, or just repeat them, I guess.
I think the first step, like the first step in this would be awareness that there's stress, and whether it's our self-created stress or something that's unavoidable. And then the second thing is, what decisions can I make? You know, what do I have control over in the situation, whether it's the self-created stress or stress that, you know, we don't have much choice but to endure. There's still choices around that, like you said, with you know, the things in the shape up where we can choose who we're around. We have a lot of choice in our lives to temper whatever we're going through, and to make sure that that battery is charged so that we have the strength to deal with whatever it is. And then knowing that, I think just being the awareness and then making those decisions.
Yeah.
And asking for help if you need help and you have a support system that can help.
That's so big. In fact, when we sit down and talk with our clients, we talk about asking for help and who's on your team. Mm-hmm. So we can certainly hire people to do things too. We're there emotionally to support them. But you know, who do you have? Do you have Team Melinda? Who do you know you can count on? Think about those people now. You probably count them on one hand. Who can you call at 2:00 in the morning? Who are those people? Who are your people? Mm-hmm. So yeah, absolutely. And that's, yeah, it's the tribe. You create your tribe. I'm going to bring Steve back on. He's part of our tribe.
Yes, he is. I think too, knowing that every challenge that we have, as difficult as going through the global pandemic was for the world, beautiful things were birthed out of it. And
yeah, for sure, you know,
it's part of the journey that we're on, flying through the sky on this rock together. You know, there's things that we're going to go through in our personal lives and then globally together that shape who we are. And, you know, it's about kind of taking what comes on our journey and doing what we can with it.
Right.
So that level of acceptance.
Absolutely. I don't know if Steve's frozen or not, but hopefully.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Oh, there you are. You're unfrozen. Yeah, there you great. Good.
Melinda, I have to tell you, I had a roommate in college, and one of his favorite sayings was, whenever we would get stressed out, he would say, 5 years from now, is anybody going to remember this? And it was right to your point of, you know, this seems important right now, but in the global spectrum of things, is this going to matter a year from now or 5 years from now? And if not, then does it really matter?
Exactly.
Yeah. My cousin runs big crews and construction, his business, and my cousin Tommy, people come to him freaked out because supplies aren't working or something's happened on the job site. And Tommy, this is what's going on. He goes, hold on. Did anybody die? No. Okay.
Yeah.
Did anybody get hurt? No. Okay, then we can solve this very easily.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of puts everything in perspective right away, which makes it really, really, I don't know, I think it's a great idea. But Steve, tell us what is going on this day in sports.
Nope. See, I think you froze.
Oh,
there you go.
Maybe we're all freezing up here and there.
So are you ready for the sports history?
I'm ready.
Okay. I thought it's appropriate based on what's happening on Sunday. We have the big game, right? Eagles and Chiefs. So in this day in 1961, the then LA Chargers relocated to San Diego.
Yeah.
So the LA Chargers, who are here right now, were here before and then moved to San Diego and set up camp there. And now they're back in LA, as we know. But there was a time where they actually started out in LA and then moved to San Diego, and were there for a long time.
Wonderful.
Nice. Yeah. I know my future mother-in-law is a Eagles fan, so she's.
You're an Eagle family. Nice.
We've been sharing the team back and forth.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. Well, let's see. We have something on the perk today. The perk is kind of unusual, actually, I have to say, because Plimsoll Day is today. Although, let's see what's tomorrow, because that might be a little better. Plimsoll, it's National Inventors Day tomorrow, which is really kind of fun too. But if we go back to Plimsoll Day, is apparently back in the late 1800s, the ships were being heavily packed, and I'm sure they were sinking. There were all kinds of issues. So they developed a line that had to go on the ships, and if I'm assuming once they got anything on the ship that reduced under that line, then they had to take some things off too. But so it's a kind of a sailor's day, and so for the perk pun, we have sailors like to seize the day. They're always a little bit of a groan with those. So. So anyway, we'll give those to you for free. We have the fun little crossword puzzles too, or word search on the back too, for every day. So call the office. Ginny will get it out to you. It's 626-359-0108, or you can reach out to her at Ginny, Ginny, at aboutseniorsolutions.com, and she'll send that perk to you for free for as long as you'd like it. So any great plans for the weekend?
Watching a game. Are you guys watching a game?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably have it on. Yep.
Gotta watch the commercials at least, right?
Gotta watch the commercials. Gotta kill a diet. Not a lot of good eating.
There's some good commercials out. I saw they actually have the commercials released on social media. They do that now.
Oh, fun.
Where you can watch them in advance.
I'll get a sneak peek then.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds great. Well, my friends, we actually went on a little bit longer than we usually do. We're probably just needing to get back together again. So I'll let you go on with your day, and we'll get together next week. I believe we have a special guest, so we'll get that information out to you. But have a fabulous weekend and a really wonderful Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.